Danny, you enjoyed Grade 1 glory at the Dublin Racing Festival again. You had good success at the meeting coming into last year's Cheltenham Festival, and it obviously happened again. Does that give you momentum at this time of the season going into the meeting, or do you still think there's 5-6 weeks to go, take it day by day?
Yeah, I suppose that's horse racing is day by day, but to be competitive and winning those big races at all the big festivals is fantastic. You know, the Dublin Festival was very good for me last year on 3 of Willie Mullins' horses, but as it worked out this year, it was 2 spare rides, I suppose, on Vischio for Emmet Mullins and Solness for Joseph O'Brien. So it's fantastic for me to have put myself in the place to be a go-to man on the big day. So hopefully I'll end up on a few nice ones come Cheltenham, but I don't know what they'll be.
Is that something you relish, being that, not a super sub, but do you know what I mean? Someone that if JJ could have ride, for example, you're there to hopefully step in and you know you can do the job?
Well, I'd love to be the first choice, but no, it's worked out quite well, you know. Even with jump racing and jockeys getting falls and injuries, there's always going to be, you know, little gaps here and there. So to be able to fill any of those gaps when needs be, it's fantastic. You know, you look back over the years and the likes of, you know, Barry Geraghty going over to England and winning early champion hurdles for Nicky Henderson and Punjabi and stuff like that led on to bigger things. So hopefully someday I might be on all the rides.
Solness first up. An interesting race. He obviously did his thing like he did at Christmas again. How did you feel the race panned out? I mean, a lot of them from the back of the field never really got into a rhythm, but you set some strong fractions out in front and he seemed to stay on strongly.
Yes, you know, he jumped out. We went a very good gallop. I think I left the ground third over the first fence and didn't lead past the winning post. And from there, down around the bend, away from the stands, the 2 downhill fences in Leopardstown, they can really shape a 2-mile chase around there. And he attacked and jumped fantastic there and continued that all the way down the back straight. And that takes some doing in Leopardstown. And it's probably easy to get to the end of the back straight in Leopardstown in front, but you turn in, and if you're standing at the ditch in Leopardstown looking at the finish, there's a serious incline and a few more jumping tests from there. So what Solness did from the back of the last to the line was the real impressive part for me.
Just building on that, because obviously Maureen National was anyone who really... Did you ever worry about him laying a glove on you, or were you that impressed with Solness's stride up to the line?
I could hear a horse coming off the bend. I hadn't fully committed Solness at that stage, and I wasn't sure how much I had in the tank. You know, I was giving him a slap on the shoulder and asking him to lengthen down to the last. But what really impressed me was when I got stuck into him and pulled the gun at the back of the last, he went. That takes some doing, you know, off that pace to be able to pick up and maintain that to the finish was very impressive.
2 wins at Leopardstown, Cheltenham next. How do you think he would handle the undulations and that sort of, if he could get into a rhythm out in front in a champion chase?
I think it should be no bother to him. I've won a race on him around Sligo, which is up and down hills, so undulations I don't think are going to be any issue to him. And, you know, he had the form with John Bon in the Tingle Creek, but that's probably the race that's opened up the improvement in the horse, where, you know, myself and Joseph had a plan that day. It went as we planned and we realised it was wrong. JJ was back on board at Christmas and employed the new tactics which worked fantastic, and I was lucky enough JJ was busy at the weekend, and I'd love if he was busy in Cheltenham again, but who knows what will happen come today.
Willie said that potentially Gaelic Warrior and El Fabiola could go to a Ryanair, so he might just have a nerve. I mean, so the race could cut up, with John Bon obviously being the chief British hope. You'd go there quite hopeful of a bold show from Solness, particularly if it's not a big field?
You would, but I'd prefer a big field if El Fabiola was running in it.
Yeah.
No, it's... I don't think the field size will matter as much to Solness. It's not as if, you know, you're dropping in a horse, you've got traffic, and that might make it more difficult. But with his tactics of, you know, it's burn and go, he won't affect him as much.
And would John Bon be the one you fear most at this
Sure,
stage?
he sets the standard. He's been beat a couple of times around Cheltenham, made a bad mistake in the Clarence House and got touched off that day. You're hoping that you'd be exposing some of those chinks in his armour, but even in those defeats, probably still sets a fair standard on the days he was only second, let alone the days he was winning. He's a top-class horse and deserves his respect, but I'm sure from the Solness camp it'll be respect rather than fear.
And Vischio was a very poignant winner for yourself and Emmet. That must have meant a lot to you.
It did, the handicapped name after Granny and Grandad, it's one we've all wanted to win, and the only race at the Dublin Festival that no Mullins had won. And it's not as if we hadn't been trying. We've been all looking for horses to try and do it.
And Vischio has got to the front in the closing stages to pull away. Vischio is one to treasure for Danny and Emmet Mullins, and the Paddy and Maureen wins by 5.
And I'd ridden this mare for Dick Donoghue. He brought her from being a Kilbeggan summer hurdle winner to win listed races on the flat, and connections put her into the sales, and I was hopeful they might not sell her, but once they had their mind set on selling her, I was trying to find someone to have a go, and Jack Contalon came up trumps, and Emmett's put the plan together quite well.
And you said to me before this, Coral Cup next at Cheltenham?
You'd imagine so. I think Coral Cup, Martin Pipe or the County Hurdle would be the options, depending on what the handicapper reassesses her to her new English mark.
Lossiemouth, what happened before the form? Willie suggesting that maybe a flock of birds could have been to blame for the jump?
I didn't see the birds. I seen the Tweety birds afterwards, but I didn't cop them beforehand. It could have been because it's something very uncharacteristic. In Kempton, it was the first day where she was probably having to operate at real speed, and she just jumped high with Paul all the way around there. And, Paul's taught her so much that day, where she was so much more accurate in Leopardstown and just got it wrong at that hurdle. I think she's definitely going the right way. And, I wouldn't be too worried about the fall going to Cheltenham. You have to be able to operate at that level to win a champion hurdle, and I think she definitely can.
And the race hadn't really developed, but you were just starting to, turn on the burners. How did you feel you were going at that stage? Yeah,
it was going to be a very exciting race. Myself and Paul jumped out, went forward, good gallop away from the stands. We'd eased off a fraction in the back straight, and nobody had really dealt a hand yet at that point. Paul was happy, I was happy, and the adrenaline left the race at that point, and it was just a case of State Man picking up the pieces. So not a lot was learned maybe from Leopardstown. So, it's everybody can remain ambitious.
And you've sort of said that it's a hard question to answer. It looks hard for Paul to get off State Man again now. He's won 11 Grade 1s. You got the call up on Lossiemouth. I guess you wouldn't swap her going into a champion hurdle if you got the chance to ride her again?
Who knows who'll ride her in Cheltenham, but I'd love to have a go again. I think I wouldn't lose any confidence in her or what she can do from Leopardstown, and it'll be, Willie will do his best to get her there in tip-top shape, and it's roll on Cheltenham.
And just finally, does a Cheltenham Festival winner mean as much to you as it did the first time you did it?
Every Cheltenham Festival winner is unbelievable, and they're hard to come by. There's so many good horses. Every owner, trainer, jockey, stable staff, it's all about trying to get those festival winners, and fingers crossed. I'd love to be riding another one this year.